Section 5 of Captain Billy's Whiz-Bang, Volume 1, Number 11, August 1920. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Phil Shempf. Captain Billy's Whiz-Bang, Volume 1, Number 11, August 1920, by W. H. Fawcett. Havemeyer and Harriet, by Nemesis. It is the old story. Sporty married man, trustful or maybe designing girl, wool over her optics, girl finally gets wise, recriminations, breach of promise suit, and... Hector Havemeyer and Harriet Hearn comprise the alliterative couple in the calcium effulgence this time. Havemeyer is the scion of the sugar magnate, one of whose stunts was to ruin a competitor by bribing a workman in the rival plant to run a pipe from the syrup tank to the river, and waste 50 or 100 barrels a day. We mention this to show that Hector did not inherit a high standard of principle or regard for the rights of others. Harriet eked out her truce with profiteering landlords and dry goods stores by digging muck from under the claws of such customers as presented themselves for the purpose. Her modest shingle swung in a barber shop in the Grand Central Station, Graftopolis on the Harlem, generally known as New York. Hector came, he saw, well, you can guess the rest. Of course he proposed marriage, and of course Harriet sprung the old song and dance about it being so sudden. But when Hector offered as a lagniappe to blow her to a whole slew of diamonds, a Kolinsky cape, and a trip south, his suddenness compared to hers as she Pisa towered on his cow-checked and celluloid, mooning, "Hector, I am thine," was even as Congress controlling the trusts to a terrier-cudel with a turpentine enema. The fair Harriet was soon installed in a $7 a day suite at a no-questions-asked hotel. Manicurists seldom can afford such things out of their own earnings, and we will give our readers 3 guesses as to who signed the checks for the rent. As long as Hector paid, he naturally was entitled to call as often as he darn pleased, which was about once a day, and then some. Not contented with that, he would telephone so often to her at her place of business that her barber employer ultimatumed that she must either cut it out or take the gate. Hector also sent flowers and candy galore. His progenitor had acquired coin in the manner quoted above, a manner both easy and honorable, and passed it on to Hector to blow. Hector also pined for special messages from his Dulcinea del Toboso, and would employ the red-capped porters at the station to go to her and beseech for him a missive of love to ease his near-ruptured cardiac. The strange part of it all is that at first Hector was too bashful to go like an avuncular just arrived from Canajoharie, and have Harriet extract the Graphopolis real estate and microbes from the nether side of his hive-scratchers. Instead, he sought the services of a New York Central detective as his John Alden, the fair Harriet states, but she fell for the detective-presented proposition and consented to the introduction. The promise of marriage, which Harriet claims was made, might have been either the last resort of a man dealing with a near Pamela and acute minx combined, or else a gratuitous piece of calorified atmosphere. But as she had to know some day that he could not keep his word without committing bigamy, Hector preferred that it should be from him, rather than from his vindictive, investigating storm and strife, or the serpentine lollipop liquor of Mrs. Grundy. Having had preliminary practice in another way, he screwed up his courage and broke the news. Although he let her down easy with the hoary classic bucolic cataplasm about his wife not understanding him, there would soon be a divorce, and then his Harriet would be it. That was all Harriet wanted to hear. She flew the $7-a-day coop whose manager, as there were several times $7 of arrears, was so unkind as to retain her powder rag, her toothbrush, and other feminine impedimenta which we forbear to catalogue. Harriet went back to finding her own rent money, but nevertheless she did not break with her Hector. Instead, she kept hectoring him with special delivery letters and telegrams, ditto his wife, although she charges that in the latter case Hector had fixed all the apartment house help so that none of her retaliatory revelations would strike home. She says, too, that her Lothario had the St. Vitus dance even when she was not in proximity to him. Seeing that he had taken her all and given her in return nothing but candy, flowers, and broken promises, she is going to try very hard to make him pay, and has brought suit for $100,000. She exults that she did not sell or give away all her old clothes, and resigned her position, as he urged her to do, and says she would not be in a Gehenna of a fix if she had. Hector claims that Harriet, like himself, is married to somebody else, a certain Gary Hearn being the man, but Harriet denies the allegation and defies the alligator. Hector lives with his wife at 375 Park Avenue, New York. He seems to take it all as a joke, but his Harriet evidently does not. She alleges that he wooed and won her under the name of Palmer, and also that he ungallantly refuses to pay the rest of the rent so she can get her needful belongings out of Hawk. And to make matters worse, he will not see her any more, but she protests her undying love for him, in spite of the way he has wounded her poor, tender little feelings, which ought to be easy for her, seeing the size of his saccharine bankroll. Heads she wins, tails she loses. Harriet figures she stands to get a slice of it if he doesn't make good about divorcing his wife and marrying her. Or, in the other event, she will have the spending of most of it anyhow. So why shouldn't modest little Harriet sue? And Echo answers why. The new supper menu. No more liquid glances. No more pretty speeches. No more stewed live lobsters. No more pickled peaches. End of section 5.